Welcome to Auto Club Speedway of Southern California, which for the first time in history plays host to a race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. In this year's chase, there's the odds-on favorite, the sentimental favorite, and the dark horse. Last week, it was a former champion, Tony Stewart, who celebrated in victory lane at Kansas on the heels of a gutsy two-tire stop with just 30 laps to go.
Good job, guys. Proud of you guys. Got us in the track position. You won the race in the pit.
Tony Stewart became the third different winner in as many chase races this year. But it's still Mark Martin who stands at the head of the class as our points leader. After 3 races in the chase, Mark Martin has stretched his lead to 18 points over Jimmie Johnson, but it's getting tighter behind him. More on that in just a moment. Now, yesterday in qualifying, some close calls for a couple of chase drivers, including a 4-time champion. Jeff Gordon gets up and just rubs the wall with his Chevrolet. Still good enough, though, to qualify 10th overall. And how about the guy who was fastest overall in practice, Juan Pablo Montoya? He's going for it in his Chevrolet, comes out of turn 4 and gets the rear and the front against the wall. But guess what? Juan Pablo, 4th quickest despite that damage on his Chevy. And a bit of a surprise in qualifying, he was only 27th quickest in practice, but he took a big swing at this car, made wholesale changes, and Denny Hamlin picked up his first pole of the season, becoming the 10th different driver to win a pole in 2009. Now for more on how tight it is at the top of the points, let's go down to Vince Welch.
Well, Doc, last week, 100 points covered the top 4 drivers in the chase. Coming into this race here in Fontana, the top 6 drivers are covered by 100 points, and those just outside that group are ready to pounce should the opportunity present itself here this weekend. That group includes Jeff Gordon, who's just 103 points outside of the lead. And as Doc mentioned, he did graze the wall in qualifying yesterday. He'll still start 10th tomorrow. In this final practice, they're trying to get the 24 to turn a little bit better in the center of the corner. Remember, this is the same car this team ran in the spring, and Jamie, they led a lot of laps and finished 2nd in that race. They're 7th so far here in this final practice.
Well, Vince, there's another driver we're watching closely. He's been under the weather and ill all week long. That's the 18 of Kyle Busch. Now, the doctors told him on Wednesday he had strep throat and a sinus infection, but after qualifying in the Cup Series yesterday, he went to the infield care center, got some fluids, and they told him he had the flu. Now, he's toughing it out this morning. So far, he was able to qualify the Nationwide car, ran in Cup practice just about an hour ago, but he's pale, he's visibly ill and not feeling well, so we're keeping our eye on him, and as a result, they have standby drivers for him in both series. David Gilliland here in the Cup Series, and for Nationwide later today, it's Denny Hamlin. Doc?
So quite a challenge, Jamie. Thank you very much for Kyle Busch. 300 miles of Nationwide racing coming up after this final practice session. Tough for him as he heads back to the garage area. Here's the driver who won this race a year ago. Of course, the defending and 3-time champion. Not only did Jimmie Johnson win this race, guys, he dominated here last fall.
He was great in the first practice session today. He's 11th fastest so far in this session, but the tires fall off so fast here. The grip goes away so quickly. Really, the fast lap is just the first lap they're on the racetrack, so sometimes that's not a great gauge on exactly how good you're going to be.
Yeah, and I'd have to say that if these guys probably aren't, they might have started with the baseline setup maybe from what they used last year and maybe even earlier this year, but things have evolved with this race car so much from that time. I'd have to say they have to be trying some new things if they think they're going to go to victory lane.
Hello, everyone. Along with Dale Jarrett and Andy Petrie, I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you with us for our coverage here of NASCAR Sprint Cup Happy Hour final qualifying. Folks, with the schedule change, this is the latest this race has ever run in the year, but the earliest in the day. So, guys, how much of a game changer is that for these guys in terms of setup?
Well, the weather's definitely going to be different, but I think that just like Dale said, these guys are learning so much about these cars week in and week out that it's probably more important on what you did last week rather than what you did, say, the last race here. And these cars the development curve is still very, very steep on this new car. And I think if you look at what happened at Kansas last week, those guys that ran well there should run well here.
Yeah, I would think so. And, you know, the thing that's different than when we were here in February is we have 12 guys trying to win a championship now. Certainly there are other drivers here that want to try to win races for different reasons. They're showcasing their talents for different reasons, whether it's trying to get a ride or just to try to win a race before this is over. But these 12 chase drivers really need to get dialed in because you don't want to have an off day here tomorrow. You find yourself right out of the points battle.
This is final practice, by the way, happy hour. See the 11 car of Denny Hamlin there, our pole sitter. And here's an interesting relationship. Juan Pablo Montoya, third in the points, going over to his mentor, who he's chasing in the standings, Mark Martin.
Well, if I was Mark Martin, I'd be careful what I tell him right now because Montoya is dangerous in this chase. He's really surprised everybody, and he is a bona fide contender. And if I was Mark, I'd hold my cards a little close to the vest.
You know, you have to wonder how much Mark's actually going to discuss with him and everything, knowing that you're racing this guy for a championship. But I think that shows the true character of Mark Martin. You know, that's what our sport's always been about, is drivers being able to go to people that they really trust. And I think Montoya knows that he's going to get a straight answer from Mark Martin if he goes over there and talks with him.
Yeah, it shows you how smart Montoya is that he goes over there. I mean, that's you know, a great resource. You can see all the decals are rubbed off the side of this 42 car from that little qualifying incident yesterday where he got up against the wall and scraped it a little bit.
See Brian Patty say, what did he tell you? What did he tell you?
Yeah,
what did he tell you?
exactly what he said. I guarantee you.
Here's the 2 car.
He sent him over there.
Yeah, exactly. Kurt Busch, we chronicled how this is such a unique story. Their crew chief leaving at the end of the year. Everyone said this team would fall apart, but they have done just the opposite. They have become contenders here in this chase.
Yeah, they're really doing a good job. You know, they haven't had the car really to win, but they've been right there in the top 5 and really done a good job keeping all of this together. And, you know, these guys are professionals. That's what their job is. They'll worry about next year when that gets here. I think this really shows you can watch the front end of this car bounce as you enter these corners, getting to the middle. That's a combination of this racetrack being rough and also the setups that they really have to run a lot of front shock trying to keep the front end down and turning, because this racetrack just doesn't have a lot of banking or a lot of grip. Kind of like Kansas last week, Andy, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and it makes it so, you know, the compromise really so severe that the arrow makes so much difference that you got to get the car down, but the track is just so rough and so hard to get that balance between mechanical grip and aerodynamic grip.
We do not have a lot of banking here, but we do have a lot of racing coming your way for the weekend. Coming up next here, 4 o'clock Eastern time, is NASCAR Nationwide Series action here at Auto Club Speedway of Southern California. Live flag-to-flag coverage following our happy hour coverage on ESPN2. How about the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series? Stop number 4 in the chase for the Sprint Cup, 2:30 Eastern time on ABC, beginning with NASCAR Countdown. You like some hot rods? How about NHRA Virginia Nationals qualifying tonight, finals tomorrow at 7 Eastern time. And we will set the stage for you with NASCAR Now, 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow on ESPN2 for what's going to happen here in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. How about a couple of drivers who are adversaries but really friends in the garage area? Juan Pablo Montoya, the chaser, and Mark Martin, the chasee. Final practice session ongoing here at Southern California at Auto Club Speedway. Here's a look at the top 10 in speeds. No surprise, Mark Martin is there. How about the 07 guy? Casey Mears, one of the RCR cars.
Yeah, RCR, looks like they've got some good hot rods this week.
Kevin Harvick, their 4th overall. He is the in-race reporter later today for the NASCAR Nationwide Series race. In fact, Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer, both those cars in the top 10, qualifying in row 4 here for Sunday. Not on that board is last week's winner, Tony Stewart. Tony getting his 4th win of the year at Kansas Speedway.
Well, he wouldn't be on the second page either. He's over there in 35th, fastest so far in this session. Makes you wonder if they're trying some things maybe in this practice session, using it as somewhat of a test session since they can't test anywhere.
Now his teammate, who did not qualify well like he did last week, Ryan Newman, though running well here in final practice. Vince.
Yeah, 22nd at Kansas last weekend. They went down a couple of laps early, and that was certainly a result that hurt them in the chase. They dropped a couple of spots down to 9th, now 164 points behind the leader, Mark Martin. So they need a bounce-back weekend. And Ryan Newman made the comment earlier in the weekend, said we need to win a race. And they're a lot better here so far today. Still a little bit too free in the center and a little bit free off. They'd made a spring change, and they're expecting to go back to where they were originally on that spring because they thought it made them a little too free on exit. But so far, a pretty solid weekend for Ryan Newman, although his qualifying position is going to put him in a hole right out of the gate, guys. He'll start 36th.
Now you want to see why Ryan Newman says he needs to win? Right here you'll see his teammate Tony Stewart has 4 of them, and that gets under your skin a little bit whenever your teammate and boss is winning all the races and you hadn't won one yet. But he still had a solid season, Ryan Newman has.
Yeah, there's no doubt they've been solid, but he's right. They do need to win. You know, that would do a lot for the morale and leading into next year, even if they happen not to go up and get maybe even a top 5 finish as far as the points go.
And the guy they're chasing in wins and points, Mark Martin. More on him. Let's go down to Jamie.
And Doc, right now he's at the top of the charts in the #1 spot. He's bringing that IndyCar back. He back at the Brickyard. He started on the pole, finished second. Right now he says it's just kind of all over the place and it's loose around the corner. And he just came in and said that change didn't help at all. You see the guys working on it. And now Mark just said something I'm curious about, Andy. He said it feels like it needs more bite in the tires. He just keeps saying the tires. What does that mean?
Well, he's just looking for grip. I'd assume that he's talking about the rear tires. He wants rear grip. I see that they're changing, looks like some rear suspension pieces. I see that bracket laying on the floor right there. That's a bracket they put on when they want to run a shorter trailing arm on the left side. And it looks like that's what they're going to try right here.
You saw him measuring that left rear tire up there a moment ago in that bracket. If you adjust that trailing arm, which they look like they're trying to do, what does that do in terms of helping the car turn?
Well, it just changes all the rear geometry. It changes the way the car acts when it goes into, compression and then through the corner through all the bumps. You can see the track bar. All this works together. It's a system, and you can see how there's so many combinations that you can run, and they're searching for that exact right combination to get the most grip out of the rear tires.
Yeah, that shorter trailing arm on that left side, generally, from a driver's standpoint, it will make the car turn just a little bit better, but it also gives you the forward bite that you're looking for. And so it'll be interesting to see exactly how this works out for Mark as they search for that forward bite that Mark's complaining about not having.
And it's a fairly long change. It's going to take them a few minutes to do this. They feel like they need to. They're pretty good. I mean, they're obviously #1 on the board, so they're probably trying to find something just a little extra right here. Not a bad time to try it.
While they work in the garage area, how about a teammate on the racetrack who was really searching for comfort and speed? And last week, it started out really well for Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the front row, leading 41 laps, and it went downhill in a hurry. A loose lug nut and then an engine issue, and he had a DNF.
It's almost the same pattern we see with this 88 so many weeks. So they run, really great in the beginning of the race, all week, maybe even through the middle sometimes, and then it kind of just goes away. I mean, in New Hampshire, he had a great car, and it actually got crashed. So it's been a lot of different things that's put him kind of out of it at the end of the race.
Yeah, he's really the first guy we've seen in practice. There's a number of guys running this higher line. He's running about a 2.25 mile track where these other guys are 2 miles right now, but he's trying to make that high line work. Looks like it's going pretty well for him, but Junior's always one looking to be able to keep that momentum through the corner and get a great run off. See the car, he's really sliding the back end right there off of turn 2.
One thing we see about this racetrack when you run during the day and you race during the day is the track gets real wide, and that upper groove comes in a lot quicker and better, and I think that might be really playing into Junior's favor on Sunday, that this groove really will come in, being as we're racing during the day.
Special day for Dale Earnhardt Jr. He is 35 today, so happy birthday to Junior. He'd like to be able to have a nice little birthday present by getting this car dialed in and have it not be quite a handful.
Hope I look as good as him when I get 35.
By the way, Brett Favre today is 40 years of age, and you are beyond that as well.
A few years past that.
Right along here with the 33 car, Clint Boyer. Told you he had a good qualifying effort. Both he and Kevin Harvick sharing row 4. So the RCR guys really coming on here in the last couple of weeks.
You can see this is a real momentum track. You try to keep the RPMs up. Again, not as much banking as these guys would like to see. Makes it difficult. Very slick racing surface. See how many RPMs. This is going down into turn 1. This is the fastest part of the racetrack. You'll see right here, over 200 miles an hour, well over 207.
That's what makes this racetrack so challenging. So little grip and so much speed.
You can see
look at Junior's car.
Junior get loose. Boyer able to really get off the bottom of turn 2. Here's a difficult entry into turn 3 also. Not a lot of markings there for you to go by, knowing when to judge and try to be consistent.
See that the car just going up and down and up and down. This track has gotten so much more bumpier, so many more bumps in it.
Clint Boyer celebrating a bit of an anniversary here, but even though he's not been in racing that long, if you add them all up, his 300th NASCAR start between Sprint Cup, Nationwide, and Camping World Trucks. Yes, he is the reigning NASCAR Nationwide Series champion. Final practice ongoing here, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Happy Hour, Auto Club Speedway here in Fontana, California. 83 car Brian Vickers, and talk about a guy that came here back in February and sat on the pole and had one of the cars to beat, and boy, what a difference a few months make. They have struggled this weekend.
You know, and they've actually struggled in the chase. I mean, they did such a great job making the chase. It's almost like it just took a lot out of them to get here, and trying to maybe get regrouped, but they just haven't run that well in these first 3 races.
Yeah, sometimes you get so focused on what you're doing to make that chase, you quit trying things and trying to advance, because you just want to kind of continue doing the things that were working right then, while all of these other guys have been able to experiment a little bit. Kind of forges them ahead a little bit.
One car that ran well in qualifying yesterday, David Rudeman, they thought they were going to have a really good day, but after qualifying, the news was not good for this team. Vince.
That's right, Doc. Track position, clean air, always so important. So when David Rudeman and this 00 team qualified second yesterday, very pleased with that, as you might expect. But the shocks did not pass inspection after qualifying, so the team has been relegated to the back of the field for the start of tomorrow's race. Now, let's go to Tim Brewer in the Craftsman Tech Garage for further explanation of the violation. Tim?
Thanks, Vince. After qualifying, NASCAR brings the cars into the garage area and impound the cars. One of the inspection processes, they actually take the shock absorbers off the car. They check the gas pressure. The gas pressure cannot exceed 75 pounds and cannot be any lower than 25 pounds, but they were under minimum. The team said they had a new gauge, but NASCAR, they actually take all the shock absorbers apart, literally. Take the top off, take the bottoms, take the shaft out of the shock absorber, showing all the other competitors, the piston, the shim stack, anything that they have has to be laid out on the table for the other competitors. But in an explanation from the team, Michael Waltrip basically said that the team had acquired a new gauge, and they did not go to NASCAR and calibrate their gauge against NASCAR's gauge. Therefore, they took complete responsibility for the incidents, but that's the only explanation we have right now. Doc?
Thank you, Tim. The same thing happened last year, basically. Juan Pablo Montoya, Kansas. They came in, they were on the pole and had a shock that was actually over the 75-pound limit. They had too much pressure on Andy, and that allows the car to stay up in the air, I guess, when it happens, and gives you a little more downforce.
Well, there's a lot of tricks that the teams can try, and that's why NASCAR put this box. They have a minimum and a maximum, and they check it every week. And you know, it just caught the 00 team out of tolerance this week, and it bit them. But there's a lot of things NASCAR checks after they qualify and after these races, and got to make sure you cross all those T's and dot all the I's.
Here they are back in the 5 garage. We told you they were making adjustments. You saw the chassis parts a moment ago to adjust the length of the trailing arm, and these measurements, DJ, very precise in terms of what a driver's going to feel.
Yeah, and you can't get that off a little bit. You want to make your change be the trailing arm. You don't want to change how far back that rear end may be. You want to get that back exactly right so that you get the feel that you're looking for. And if you throw that off just a little bit, it can change the way the car drives and feels to you.
One driver who would like to have a change in how he's feeling right now is this guy. If he just joined our coverage, Kyle Busch, very sick all week. We were told he had strep early in the week, and now the flu. Very uncomfortable yesterday. Didn't practice his Nationwide car much. Had Denny Hamlin in the car, and we are told Denny Hamlin will be standing by later today for the Nationwide car. Of course, Kyle has to start the car. He's the points leader in that series. And also, you heard Jamie tell you earlier, they'll have David Gilliland standing by maybe to run some laps here in the Cup car. And his history at this racetrack would tell you that he'd like to be healthy. This is a good place for him to be out here and be in a car.
Yeah, he would like to do that, but I tell you, this, even though it's a 2-mile racetrack, is physically demanding, and you have 500 miles on Sunday. That's a long time being inside the car. You're going to have it in the middle of the afternoon. You're not going to have the benefit of it being at night and things cooling down a little bit. So this is going to be a very tough 2 days if Kyle Busch can pull this off.
Heads back to the garage area. We stay on the racetrack. Here's the 07 of Casey Mears. And we talked about how the entire RCR operation has come on strong. But Casey Mears really driving aggressively. Ran well at Dover, Delaware. Ran well, last week at Kansas, and now being shown second on the speed charts here.
And Todd Barrier, his crew chief, he's not afraid to try a lot of new and different things. And I'm sure that they have been throwing a lot at these cars lately. And it's paying off because all the RCR cars are fast this week.
Behind him, the 9 car, Casey Kane. Finished 12th here back in February. Has gotten better and better after that disappointing start to the chase. The DNF and the 38th place finish at New Hampshire. They finished 8th at Dover and 6th at Kansas. But to show you how tough it is to climb back after those 2 top 10 finishes, he is still 11th in the chase points.
Yeah, I've talked to Kenny Francis and a lot of the guys on the team down there, and they really, they feel like they have to put up top 5, top 3 finishes from here on to have a shot at this championship at all. It's going to take a long time to dig out of that hole that they made for themselves with that DNF.
See the telemetry here and the onboard, all the cameras, being able to watch the driver. So much technology is involved in us covering a race. When we come back, we'll show you how it's all done as we take you behind the scenes. We invite you to join us live, flag-to-flag coverage, Sunday, 2:30 Eastern Time, the Pepsi 500 here in California. It is stop number 4 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, and Matt Kenseth, all 3-time winners here at this racetrack. Our coverage beginning at 2:30 with NASCAR Countdown. It takes a lot of people, a lot of travel, and a lot of work to take you inside the action of a NASCAR race. Now we're going to take you behind the scenes to give you a glimpse at the efforts of our talented technical team.
Go, Mark, let's go. Way to go. Woo!
This is ESPN's coverage of NASCAR. Advanced and innovative television production. 26 racetracks. 38 weekends.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about, boys.
We're moving from place to place every single weekend with all the trucks that we have and all the cable that we connect. It's like setting up a Super Bowl every single weekend.
There isn't a single feed that we put on there that isn't high definition. ESPN has put forth one of the biggest efforts to put everything in HD.
We've got 5 RF cameras, 10 studio cameras, 12 robo cameras. Those are set around the ring of the track. Everything is HD.
ESPN was the first network to go full HD with the in-car camera systems. There's 8 in-car cameras.
Fans, you can bet we're in hot Atlanta, and later on tonight, we're going to light it up on pit road.
A pitman cam is a camera that goes on a helmet. One of the guys in the pits working for the teams, so we can see tires getting changed during the race. You might see the gas man. It gives you a point of view of a person that's actually working in the race.
Live from inside the Jimmy John Chevrolet, and we're getting ready to go racing here. So let's go up to the booth, and Dale, Jared, and the guys see what's happening tonight.
The most amazing things we do is our in-race reporter. We've taken that access and made it so that the viewers at home can literally sit shotgun with a race car driver.
You know how it is, Dale. It's it's mentally grueling as well as physically. I was just talking to Jason Keller. We just want to be there at the end, racing for the win.
All right, Carl, thanks for talking with us and have a great day.
Cool, thanks, Dale. Have a good broadcast.
And no other sport does that.
We'll use anywhere from 80 to 120 microphones, depending on the size of the track. We'll use a mixing area that gets all of the in-car radios.
We've got every single driver.
There was a problem in the 18 pits.
Go, whoa, 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 whoa. What'd you say about coming back, Jeff? We rolled a tire. We had a tire getaway. The last pit stop, every time I come to this racetrack, y'all suck. I swear on my children and my wife, I was not speeding. Thank you, NASCAR, for screwing my day.
What we try to do is get some of the people that some of the other networks might not focus on.
12 is getting wrecked, okay? I don't care, NASCAR can park me or whatever, but he's getting wrecked. 2 times, he wrecked me in 1, and he wrecked me in 3.
ESPN's really the only network that's committed that much to get radios on the air.
NASCAR is unique because we are totally a fiber-based system. In most places you go to, such as a football game or a basketball game, the stadium is pre-wired. Here, we have to run every single cable from start to finish, sometimes making runs of over 5,000 feet.
When it comes to a week in, week out broadcast that goes for 38 weeks, yeah, this is without a doubt the largest undertaking.
Holy crap, that'll make it Sports Center.
What a talented team, a traveling city of technology week to week, crisscrossing the country. No other sport, guys, gets this kind of amazing access. We take people inside the huddle or inside the dugout as the decisions are being made.
I mean, we're riding right here with Juan Pablo Montoya in practice, and you can see exactly the steering wheel inputs. I mean, you got these high-definition cameras. It's really incredible, and the teams will actually watch a lot of this, too, and try to get information from what we do.
I'll tell you what, since I've come on board in this business, I was totally amazed to see what all it takes to make all of this happen. I was like a lot of other people, I'm quite certain. I sat down, turned my TV on, I expected to be there and happening, having no idea what it may take for something like this to transpire and how close ESPN takes the fan inside the racing here. So it's just incredible. We have a lot of great people, a lot of very interesting technology that makes all of this very worthwhile to watch and cover this sport.
Here's the 11 car, our pole sitter for Sunday, Denny Hamlin, trying to get himself dialed in for what should be a grueling 500 miles tomorrow. Jamie.
Well, I talked to his crew chief, Mike Ford, last week after the race, and he said, you know what, our two worst tracks are behind us, Dover and Kansas. He said, from California on, watch out. This 11 team is going to be a threat. Hey, so far they lived up to their word. Yesterday they put it on the pole for the first time this year. Right now they're third, and the car is pretty good. He's just a little tight in the center, and they're just working on it, trying to fine-tune and get it to be better in the long run. Doc?
Thank you, Jamie. He was the fastest car in one lap of qualifying on Friday. But how about the average speeds for the guys here in happy hour? That's where it's critical. Can you be consistently fast?
And right here it is. Mark Martin still leads that group too, so he's got a good fast car and consistently fast.
One thing I see, a lot of Chevrolets up on that list.
Back with more coverage in just a moment. Ongoing in Mark Martin's car in the garage area, and the key there is quest. They're still on a quest to get this one dialed in.
Yeah, they're trying to now adjust around this new setup they put under there. That trailing arm they changed, they went out and didn't like it exactly. They came back in, made a few adjustments here to try to tune around it and see if they can optimize what they have here and see if it's something they want to keep.
Who said there are no mulligans in NASCAR? It's a redo or an undo of what they were doing before. Now, here's a team that's still working to try to get it dialed in after leading the most laps a week ago at Kansas. Vince.
Third place at Kansas and look to continue that momentum here this weekend. Had a good qualifying spot. In fact, they're going to start second in the race tomorrow. But Greg Biffle was not happy with his race car. In fact, in the first set, they were about a 41-43. Came in, made some significant changes after Greg said too loose, too tight. They've been chasing it all over the track. Picked up 4/10, but still just 33rd quickest. He says it's still too tight on that corner exit. So still some work to do for the 16. And of course, guys, they've got a lot of work to do to make up for where they are in the chase. Currently 8th, 114 points behind the leader, Mark Martin.
Still looking for that first win as well here in 2009. Now Mark Martin is back out on the racetrack. Let's see if the adjustments have made a difference here in this 5 car.
The times are definitely faster now than they were before he made that last little change. Kind of even wondered if they changed tires, but they were hearing that he did not. Still on the same set of tires, so definitely making some headway here. That's bad news for the competition because he's already number 1 on the board.
Look up behind him. There comes the 29 car of Kevin Harvick, and we mentioned he's got a brand new car here this weekend, and it is performing very well. Very good in qualifying, and very pleased with the fact that he is 4th right now overall in speeds in happy hour.
Wow, he blast right under Scott's speed there, didn't he?
Yeah, and this is one of only 4 racetracks that Richard Childress Racing hasn't won at of the current tracks that we race at. So hopefully they've got cars up in the top 10, and Richard would like to mark this one off as one of those and get it down to 3 if possible after tomorrow evening.
Kevin Harvick will be our in-race reporter for the NASCAR Nationwide Series race coming up later this afternoon. So we'll be able to ask your question and our questions of Kevin as he drives the car that he and his wife Delana own. If you want to log on to ESPN.com, search Ask the Driver. Maybe have your question answered by Kevin Harvick later today. Now, tomorrow in Countdown, we had our Marty Smith sit down and talk one-on-one with Kevin Harvick. We wanted to find out why Happy Harvick hasn't really been that happy this year.
What could the organization do to give them the best shot to get you back in the 29?
Well, I don't even know that it's really about that. I think it's more about, you know, sometimes when you get to the end of the book, you just shut the page and you go, man, that was really good. I really enjoyed what I did here, and it was a good book to read, and it was a lot of fun to experience the situations, but sometimes it's just best for everybody involved to just say, all right, I'm going to read another book.
That is a pretty important statement for Kevin Harvick, and you're going to hear a lot more as Kevin sort of bears his soul tomorrow in NASCAR Countdown at 2:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Back with more in a moment. It is NASCAR Nationwide Series action coming your way following our coverage of Happy Hour. Nationwide action here in California later today on ESPN2. It is stop number 4 in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series chase for the Cup. Pepsi 500 in California tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern Time, beginning with NASCAR Countdown. That's on ABC. In HRA action, the Virginia Nationals qualifying later tonight, finals at 7 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow. And, of course, NASCAR Now tomorrow morning will set the stage for race number 4 in the chase at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Final practice session here at California Speedway. A 2-mile D-shaped oval, sort of the sister track to Michigan, but drivers say they are nothing alike, different banking, totally different characteristics. And here's right now where the 12 chase contenders are practicing. Mark Martin first in points and first on the speed chart. I think Greg Biffle way down there in 34th, even though he's on the front row. You heard him say a moment ago they are struggling here in this session.
See, Mark Martin, he's going to run this practice completely out. Looks like he's been out there for quite a few laps. He must like what he has there with that last change and wants to see just how it's going to play out if he runs a group of laps together here and see, just to kind of evaluate this change.
We told you last year Jimmy Johnson sat on the pole and dominated. He's the only pole sitter ever to win this race, leading 228 of 250 laps. And he's the only driver to ever win this race from the front row. He won it in the pole last year and from the second starting spot a year ago. Here's a news flash. This guy's pretty good at California.
Yeah, they do a great job. And it looks like he's got a car that really staying under him, too. So we've been watching the times. He's 11th quickest as far as the fast time, but his car doesn't seem like it's slowing down quite as much as the other guys.
Now his teammate, the 4-time champion, moving up in the standings after that finish, second place finish last week, is now 7th. But got to be a bit of a sense of urgency with these guys, Andy, to maybe now win a race here in this chase.
Well, they just want to win a race, period. And I think that's, would go a long way in this chase. If he could get one of those wins now, it would really help his chances.
But if he's going to gain any points, he's going to have to, the way these other guys are going, because they're finishing in the top 3 or 4 every week.
Show you these Hendrick teammates and their history here at California. 2 of them have won here 3 times. The other one's also a winner, but Johnson and Gordon both 3-time winners here. You see the top 10s and the average finish. Look at Jimmy Johnson, 6th.
Wow.
The guy whose last win this year came back in February. He won back-to-back to begin the year, the Daytona 500 and here at California, but hasn't won since February 22nd. That 17 car who qualified and will start 17th tomorrow. Maybe an omen.
Yeah, and the last couple of weeks have been pretty good for the 17 team. They've run well.
Started 24th back in February. He has won this race 3 times from starting 20th or worse. So no matter where he starts, he's pretty good. Good to see this 31 car, guys. Jeff Burton, well, the whole RCR team, but Jeff Burton probably having one of the better runs we've seen him have in Happy Hour. He was in the top 15 until just a moment ago.
Yeah, he's still in that 16th spot there, and that's a lot further up than these guys have been in the practice session. So Jeff, I know he's working hard, and everybody at RCR trying to right the ship here, and it seems like they have things better in hand right now. See Jeff fighting it a little bit.
Experiment with that upper groove a little bit.
You're going to have to get up and challenge that part of the racetrack, because you're going to see a slick racetrack tomorrow afternoon, as you're not going to have the benefit of getting any cooling down as we have been here in the past.
Last time we were on a 2-mile racetrack, Sam Hornish at Michigan was very good. He ran in the top 10 much of the day and had a top 5 finish.
Yeah, don't forget he's won 2 times here in the IRL, 2002 and 2003, so he knows his way around this track.
Talked to Sam yesterday as he was waiting to get in the car to go out to qualify. They were pretty excited about how well their super speedway program has run. Of course, he had, the top 5 at Pocono, and of course the other top 5. Whoa, a little bit of a wobble there at Michigan. They said this track is quite a bit different animal than the one he ran well on in Michigan.
Well, it is so much difference as we ride along here with Jamie McMurray now. He's 8th quickest. He's been having some better runs the last few weeks. They don't have the finishes to go with it, but you can definitely see some marked improvement over how they've run and how they ran earlier in the year.
Whoa! Looks like that John Andretti getting loose out of the corner there.
Pull it down across the racetrack. Still a lot of speculation. There's the
Allmendinger.
That's the 44 of A.J. Allmendinger. He just pulled it hard left coming up off the corner.
Laid a couple of black marks there.
Probably the toughest part of the racetrack is that exit of turn 2. The racetrack just flattens out so much, and you're carrying a lot of speed off of there.
In next time.
Flags are out, and that will signal the end of happy hour. So final practice session has ended, and you got what you got, as they say in the garage area. Right now it is Mark Martin, the points leader, and he is the fastest car in happy hour. Casey Mears was second, and Denny Hamlin, who's our pole sitter tomorrow, third overall in this session. He's got to be smiling. Jamie.
He just told me it is pretty cool to have the pole here. Just climbed out of the car, all finished with practice. You're a little snug there. Did you guys work everything out?
Yeah, I think so. That was just, you know, we were kind of debating whether even to go out in that run, and I just wanted to, you know, try one more thing to try to get us off the corner a little bit better, and just tightened up the rest of the corner too much. So we're going to go back to what we had the previous run, and I think we're going to be pretty good.
All right, coming up next, nationwide race. Of course, your teammate Kyle Busch under the weather. What's the situation there?
Well, I think I haven't found out from him. I think he was going to use happy hours, kind of his gauge on whether he could make it or not. I think the biggest problem with him, he said, it was when it got hot, it really started to bother him. So, you know, be there regardless. But Kyle's pretty tough. We'll see.
All right, so we're going to be on standby. Denny Hamlin will be on standby. And I heard you play golf at Pebble Beach. Is that true?
Yeah, I had plenty of strokes to prove it.
Plenty of strokes. All right, Denny Hamlin will be in the motor coach, guys, and awaiting a phone call if they need it for Kyle Busch.
Well, we'll wait for the update coming up in NASCAR Countdown and for the NASCAR Nationwide Series race. A lot of concern here. There's the 18 car, Kyle Busch, having the flu. If he just joined our coverage, he had strep throat early in the week and now diagnosed with the flu and was feeling very poorly yesterday. Only ran his Nationwide car 4 laps. He had Denny Hamlin in the car for the rest of the session, and you can see even struggling now to get out of his Cup car.
I tell you, just has to be careful not to get dehydrated here. The temperatures are up enough that it'd be very easy to do that inside of these cars. But, you know, he manned up here, and a lot of times you kind of want to take practice off as you try to get ready for 2 races, if indeed he's going to try to run the entire length of both of them. But you really have to take care of yourself, and I know he's doing that.
Andy, what is the process now for these teams? You see the driver climbing out trying to catch his breath. These guys that are on pit road, what are they going to do between right now and when they line up tomorrow?
Well, you got the crew chief and the driver that are going to debrief all of the things that they've done in these 2 practice sessions and evaluate everything and come up with a setup for tomorrow. They'll do that probably back in the hauler. The car chief and all the mechanics now will get the car ready to race. You see cleaning the rubber off the hood right there. They're going to go and inspect a lot of things. They got a checklist, or they'll check off everything from brakes to you know, air cleaner. You name it. I mean, if it's on that car, there's a checklist for it, and they'll be checking everything to make sure that car's bulletproof tomorrow.
Now, here's what I don't get. We talked about what happened last week.
Cool with the splitter. That's good. Yeah, I never even noticed it that run. You know. Yeah, 10-4.
You have qualifying and all this practice, and then on Sunday morning, these guys said we made wholesale changes. We threw everything we wanted to throw at the car, and it worked last week for Greg Biffle.
Well, that's what you do. You know, these practice sessions are, you put as many changes as you can in that session, and you evaluate positives and negatives. Now, you don't have time to optimize that sometimes. You have to go back and talk about it, and then you take all these things and put it on the car for the race, and sometimes that means it's a lot of changes Sunday morning. But they still have confidence that it's going to work because of their data that they've collected.
Yeah, it looked like Greg Biffle and him going to have to do a little body work, too, as he got a little close to the wall.
You get a little of that with Greg. I can tell you he was going to get all there is in that car, and sometimes he'll scrape that paint.
Guys, we have the same Goodyear tire that we had last week at Kansas Speedway, which gave us a great race, and these drivers saying they're getting a little bit better grip here, but as the day wears on a daytime race tomorrow, what do you expect to see?
I think we're going to have a great race. The track's going to get real wide. You're going to have 3, 4, even maybe more grooves on this racetrack, and it's going to be great racing, and can't wait for it.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of sliding around. You know, we saw Clint Boyer riding along with him, had 2 tires at least down below the white line, down on the apron. They're searching for grip anywhere they can get it, but they'll be from the very bottom to the top, and that's what makes a great show here.
Well, coming up next, they're going to be searching for a lot of grip here for 300 miles with the NASCAR Nationwide Series cars. Joey Logano on the pole for that one. And these guys here, the Nationwide drivers, have been putting on a heck of a show the last few weeks.
And it'll be a good one here today, too. See those Gibbs cars up front.
Joey Logano on the pole. Beside him will be Kyle Busch, or will it? We know Kyle will start the car, and we will find out in the early parts of Countdown exactly how long he will be in that car. We have 14 drivers doing double duty. Guys that just climbed out of their NASCAR Sprint Cup car and will be getting ready to climb into the NASCAR Nationwide Series car to run for 300 miles here at Auto Club Speedway in Southern California. Should be a good one. Alan Bestwick.